And notice that the examples continue on to the next page. So find the angles, mark with the letters, give reasoning. So we'll go in alphabetical order. We'll do P before we do Q. So P, let's see. So there's a relationship between, the angle we have here is 70 degrees, and they want to find P. So what one can you use from the previous ones? You could use corresponding angles are equal, because you've kind of got this fangle thing going on. These two are corresponding because they're both on the same side of the transversal, and they're both in the same position relative to the parallel line. See, it forms this kind of fangle thing. So you could say that, for example, P is 17 degrees, and you must give reasoning. So P equals 70 degrees, the reason is corresponding angles. So if that one is 70, so maybe you want to make a note of that. So that one is 70 degrees. I'm happy to see how you could then use that to find Q. How could you use that to find Q? Well, what's the relationship between Q and P? They are adjacent. So they're right next to each other. They're adjacent. So they're not equal because one's obtuse and one's acute, but instead they add up to 180 degrees. So we can say, we could go Q plus 70 equals 180. So then you can go Q equals 180 minus 70, Q equals 110 degrees. The reasoning being that it's adjacent to P. Don't forget your degree sign on the final answers, that's important. Next one, we've got AC and D. So AC and D, maybe you want to deal with A first. Let's see. So A, we'll deal with A first, as I said. Here is A. There's also a B, sorry. So there's A, B, C, D. So we'll deal with A, then B, then C, then D. So that's how they generally set it up, but not always, but a lot of the time they do. So A, see, happens to be corresponding with 63 degrees. See, there's two transversals. There's the parallel lines are going here, plus there's one transversal here, and there's one transversal here. So these two red lines, they're both actually transversals. So the parallel lines are the other lines. These two are two examples of transversals. So A, as we said, is corresponding because they're both on the same side of the transversal, and they're both in the same position relative to the parallel lines, both above the parallel lines. So you can say that A is 63 degrees, and the reason is that it's corresponding angles. If you want to go for B next, a good thing to suggest is, it might be helpful if you write in the fact that A is 63 degrees on the diagram. It might help for you to see the relationship between A and B. So the relationship between A and B are that, so these two, of course, then these two can't be considered to be alternate because they're not across parallel lines. The two red lines are transversals and they're not parallel. Whereas there's a relationship between A and B, they are adjacent, so they add up to 180 degrees. So you can work out B is just 180 minus 63, B equals 117 degrees. The reason, make sure you give reasoning. So corresponding, adjacent to P for this one, corresponding for A, adjacent to A is the reason for B. Then we might want to find C. So it can also, it might not be useful, but you might just want to write in that this is 117, as you go, 117 degrees for that one. To work out C, how could you work out C? C you could work out because C, as you can see, C is corresponding to 109 degrees. So we've got to use this transversal. We can't use anything from over here because there's no relationship between these angles and those angles because they're different transversals and they're not parallel. Those transversals are not parallel. But there's a relationship between the parallel lines. So the relationship is between these ones, and there's a separate set of relationships between those ones. So we can go C, as we said, C is corresponding to 109 degrees because they're both on the same side of this transversal, same side of the red transversal, and they're both in the same position relative to the parallel lines, they're both above. So C equals 109 degrees because it's corresponding, which then, so if C is 109, might be helpful to write it in, 109, and which enables you to work out D. The only relationship D has with any of these is D and C are adjacent. So same set of reasoning as before. D equals, so D equals 180 minus 109. because those two add up to 180 degrees, equals 71 degrees. Put the degree sign on the final answer. Some people are forgetting to put the degree sign on the final answer. Don't put it in the working out, or else the degree sign gets mistaken for a 0. Give your reasoning, always give your reasoning. So corresponding here, adjacent to P, corresponding adjacent to A, corresponding adjacent to C. You must give reasoning too. Great. Thank you for that. Bye.